has some of the most out-of-pocket.
My eating day is boring, but my metabolism is strong. My day starts early and it starts with coffee. Tampa traffic mandates that we leave by 6 a.m. We grab coffee on the go. 4 shots in my Americano and add some red salt. I said goodbye to breakfast a couple of years ago when I stalled and had to level up. I took out the heavy whipping cream when again I stalled and I had to level up. I drop off my son and arrive at the clinic with my best drain forward. It's a rare day that I get hungry during the day. But if I do, I start with bubble water, which is my favorite. If hunger continues, I reach for sardines right out of the can. Sometimes with a verbal crisp. For a snack, I don't snack. Supper happens after I pick up my son from sports practice. If he picks Qdoba, it's a burrito bowl. Both the beans, both the rice, brisket, queso, grilled vegetables. If he picks something less alcohol, I can say that's what he says. I eat a day. Hi, my name is Dr. Annette Boston. Today we're going to talk about the terminology that is ketogenic diet. It can be pretty confusing and patients can get a little lost in the terminology during the documentation and doctors it's scary. First time I
Meta agrees to make major changes to Instagram and Facebook apps in landmark settlement of social media addiction case.
And when she asked me about it, I reflexively reminded her of the dangerous term called ketoacidosis. And I said, oh, that sounds like a terrible idea. You don't want to do that. Of course, I made a very common mistake that ketosis and ketoacidosis are often mixed up, and it's what reflexively makes every medical advisor cringe to refer to your word ketosis, because if you've ever taken care of someone with ketoacidosis, it will be imprinted into your mind a very life-threatening and dangerous problem that takes a lot of teamwork to get the patient better.
Japanese
It
market. I
helps
think
to
this
empower
is
patients and their family members about the
Alex.
We're going to start with the word ketone. Ketone is a molecule that moves around in the air. I put salt in my coffee, and people think that's weird. But I've been keto a long time, and you need to replace the electrolyte when you're on a ketogenic diet. And although most people use like a sugary, sweetened electrolyte drink, I do not want that sugar on my palate. It took me years to get rid of that craving, and I don't want to start that fight again. Besides, I like the taste of salt, and I need to replace those electrolytes because coffee is a diuretic. Yes, it diureses me, especially when you drink as much of it as I do. That means when I drink coffee, I pee out more liquid and it dehydrates me. And it might sound counterintuitive, but you actually need salt to reverse dehydration. I put salt in my coffee, and people think that's weird. But I've been keto a long time, and you need to replace the electrolyte when you're on a ketogenic diet. And although most people use like a sugary, sweetened electrolyte,
That wasn't that much. get those angry rings on my shoes too.
Get ready for the next battle.
Touted as not a medical condition, it is. It's called intestinal permeability. And as it progressively gets worse, that weakness gets wider and wider. We call it ulcerative colitis. These large holes are letting things in and out unregulated. That's now keto will help this over time. That push right on the edge of magnesium, and levels will drop. Why? Well, you may have heard people say keto is just a bunch of water weight loss. Yeah, that's actually true. Keto doesn't help your body, especially that first week. Don't worry, I mentioned fat. But during that big water loss, it goes along electrolytes. Like borderline normal condition. And that causes all these symptoms. So if you have this problem in your gut, let's skip the gut. Called fast. Serious about taking to make you at least 10 pounds of ethanol in a bathtub. Minimum. Again, it's salty water touching your skin that is the equation. Some of you don't have a bathtub, so you soak your feet in Epsom salt. But now you only got 10% of that
next battle
to the salty water. So you're gonna have to keep your feet in there much longer. I walked my sister-in-law through keto and made her adjustment. Her reaction to the first Epsom salt bath was day today I've talked with I say now it's just a very mild tension. I carry stress in my shoulders and in my upper back and lower back. But I noticed that it's been a long time since I have that feel 20 minutes. Relax. Enjoy the moment because the moments are hard to see. Let's move on to very fast yeah, it's also the most expensive, but I think that's the absorption. They call this sensory deprivation because you've got oxygen floating in the body and I love this because I'm relaxed. I have the shell, but it's float stuff. Welcome everybody. It is Tuesday Night Live here on the Saxophone channel. We have one of my favorite guests of all time, Dr. Ken Berry. Great to see you. Thanks for coming over to this channel. I was looking at when we last did this, and it was 5 years ago.
Yeah. Unbelievable. That's my fault and your fault. There's no excuse for that.
Right. It is, you can say, both have stood the test of time that it can wear you out. You learn only goes on a few of those lives eventually because you're exhausted for a week afterwards. But I was looking back at some of the things where when you study your audience, what my audience is very well aware of is Ken Berry. But your audience probably is aware of Dr.
Absolutely, yes.
So I
very often in our private lives, Dr. Boz said, and I'm always like, yeah, Dr. Boz is right. And I hope that's usually what you get to say. I don't know, but I hope so.
No. I mean, I think when I was reaching out saying, well, is there something to differ on? I just did a podcast the other day with Dr. Simon, and I think it hasn't published yet, but I think he was trying to say, gotcha. And in the end, we couldn't hardly find a thing that he really has an honest conversation that we could about. So, and that was the premise of inviting you on to say, look, the people who've been in the space the longest, I think everybody knows who you are and what the answers to some of these questions are, but I would love for you to say, there's some like headlines that I think we match on at the beginning, and then we'll just have the first one is, are you a first-generation physician?
I am, yes. Actually, as far as I know, first-generation college graduate. I think my dad went to college. He graduated a kid, wife, so yeah. But I'm first-generation college graduate and first-generation doctor, yes.
I'm first-generation four-year college. My dad went to a two-year college for Harvard. And then they were college. When people say, why did you go to med school? I said, I come from a dynasty of farmers, and there has to be a better smelling range thing.
Yeah, and then you got in med school and residency, and you're like, well, there's still some smells involved here. Not as bad as the hog farm.
Right.
Get ready for the
You're going to get away from it eventually if you
exactly.
Try, right? Well, yeah, looking at first-generation physicians, I think, did any of your children go into medicine?
So, no, I've got an attorney, I've got a mathematical analyst that works in D.C., and I've got a nurse. Well, I've got a nurse. And then I've got Abby Grace, who's my social media manager, that they get money or stuff too little. But yeah, so I have a nurse. That's the closest I got.
Yeah, I've told all my kids, there's way better ways to regulate the industry out there to help people another topic, which is farming, family, and faith. So, talk about how, I mean, I know I see on some of that you're into farming these days. Talk about that.
Yeah, so I grew up on a really small farm with my grandparents, and then did nothing but to get completely away from farming and never, ever set foot on a farm again. And then Nisha and I were living in the suburb of Nashville, and 2019 happened. 2020 happened, and Nisha's grandfather had just went to heaven and left her this farm, and I said, you know what? We need to get back to the farm. And she said, you know what, I've been thinking the same thing, let's get down to the city. And so we went back to the farm, and it took her about a year and a half to really be okay with it. But I was okay with it from day one, and I was never in the city again by choice. I was always being as deep out in the woods as I could be, and in the woods Tennessee. That's my happy place. And I think it's so funny how like I can remember Granny and like, okay, well, it's time to go to the garden. And I would disappear. I would go and hide. It's like, no. And now if you're like, hey, time to go to the pasture, I'm like, let's go. Don't have any hogs. And I rotate one or two years, but I'm never going to have a hog farm. But I do love little sheep, and eventually we're going to have some cattle. And we'll probably have one or two hogs that we rotate through the pasture just to have bacon in the freezer.
Yeah, well, I will same thing. I thought for sure if I could find my way out of the damn farm, I can remember being number one, and we were living in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Right, starting to get used to it more.
I had stolen from home, and I had a 6-month-old baby, and I called my mom and said, I know how to raise kids in the middle of nowhere where nobody's going to come to your house and snatch them away, but I don't think I know what I'm doing here. That farm was practically, I think it's the pace of life, but also your own sanity and slow it down.
Yeah. I think life just makes more sense. Country people are just, you know, this growing up on your family farm. Country people, 1 + 1 = 2, whether it hurts your feelings or not. And nobody cares. That's what it is. It's just it is. You know, the hog died, the sheep died, the baby rabbit died. That's life, baby. You gotta get used to that. Whereas I think in modern times, in cities, people think that humans are magic. It doesn't matter what you eat, it doesn't matter what you say, it doesn't matter how you live. It's all that matters.
But the other thing that I feel is very good from that small town USA is the lack of being in So I do remember getting in trouble at that, like 14 years, 15 years old. I had thrown eggs at a teacher's car. And my mother, I got that. Like, the damn grapevine was so good that, yeah. But it also, as I kind of left the nest away, I remember thinking, nobody looks me in the eye when I walk down the street. Now, that's weird. They should look you in the eye.
Yeah.
So, there's some things you can take off the farm,
Get
things you
ready
can't
for
take off
the
the
next
farm.
battle.
So yeah, farming, family, and faith. You're not afraid to say that you love the Lord, and I think that's something I feel all the time too. So then the other kind of parallel is both went into primary care, family care physician or co-medicine, but very similar practice of how to take care of bread and butter. And then we both got nervous, or at least we were telling our patients. So I remember hearing your story, but I guess it's been about 5 years since you did that. So was it heartburn, just being overweight? What was your big symptom?
Yeah, well, I worked full-time in the clinic and also full-time in the ER. I would do 12-hour shifts every week in the ER in addition to 45 to 50 hours a week in the clinic. And so I lifted drugs and drugs that got that cross-screen place. And I'm very tall, so I had to have XL or 2XL drugs because I could take me high waters, right? And so here I am in my 2XL drugs, and I had
That's crazy. What the fuck?
I knew I gained some weight, but I did not realize. And so one day I walked in the clinic and the my nurse, my LPN that was with me for over 10 years, very common sense country girl, she said, Doctor, you're getting fat. I'm like, oh, it's good to you too, Whitney. And so I got there on the scale and I weighed 297 pounds. Right? And so
This guy's got a crazy body. Now I know why they say Brian.
And I was also having, just like as you mentioned, severe, terrible heartburn. I had toenail fungus, I had dandruff, I had just knee pain. When the Nexium drug rep came, I took none of my patients got Nexium. I took 2 days for years, and I would take 800 ibuprofen and 2 Nexium every single day. That was just my standard, because I believed that that was safe and fine at that point. Until I got on that hill that day to check the lab, and I'm like, whoa, I've got, and you know, I'm sure you're from North Dakota, right? South Dakota, so not in South Dakota, but I'm sure in South Dakota, you would never take your car to a car mechanic whose car wouldn't start. Just know that. So why would you go to a fat diabetic doctor in Tennessee and ask him for help with medical weight loss advice? You wouldn't. That'd be stupid. And so I immediately be in the country or whatever. I'm like, I gotta fix that. I can't be a fat diabetic doctor. Well, no, that's not acceptable. And so in the journey, it's me because the first thing I tried, Doc, was
my doctor, a psychiatrist, he has a sun allergy, and I sent him a video of the solution to that. It's vitamin B3 deficiency. No wonder he didn't reply to it. He's probably embarrassed that he didn't know the answer all this time. Damn, man, this guy is too good. Fuck.
Right. It's okay.
That's a big doctor thing. Like, all my patients, I know about lifestyle and diet. They don't even listen. I had been doing it, and it did not work. So that's why I had to go, okay, I got to do something else. This is not, if it failed me, and I know I was doing it, but all my patients.
Yeah, man.
The answer was, yes, I had no problem. Not that I said, okay, then the next year happened, and we told self-publishing books. I lost a bet to my husband that I'm not on the right book. I thought it was some idea. I get this discipline around here now. I recommend it. And I like but self-publishing a book is something. It's like you got to have a lot of courage. You got to be able to say, okay, I'm going to stage that was in your book, and it's in my book about that 2017, 2018 time makes people call was look people. They're wrong. Right? Yours is lies my doctor told me.
Yep.
Right? Mine was a little less clever than that. But both stories of, oh, okay, you got this all wrong. So you have to say it's like the theme that in 2017 was what's the big theme in your book?
I was wrong, and your doctor's probably wrong too. That's the underlying spine of the entire book. And let me give you a bunch of examples of how I was wrong and how your doctor's probably wrong too. And one of the chapters of my doctor told me that I'm most proud of is in the back. There's a chapter I actually wrote to medical students, residents, and doctors. And I said, I know,
And this is what other people do. And then you looked at in your book, and I'm sorry it's been a few years since I have read your book, but it's been a few years. Was it mostly keto? Was it carnivore? What was
the word carnivore doesn't appear anywhere. And so that's part of it is it's like a history project. Because you go back and read lies, and I'm absolutely holding in. But I'll tell you, that was part of the journey writing this book. And so it's definitely low carb, definitely keto, definitely real whole, integrated food, and all that. And so, you can literally see me looking for the target, trying to find the target. That was my proper human diet. And so, to be clear, I still don't believe that everybody needs to be a carnivore.
Right.
I think that almost everybody needs to do 90 days of carnivore just as a reset and the information and just to kind of figure out what's going on. But I think you can be under 100 kilograms of carbs a day and be perfectly metabolically healthy. Some people need to cut it down to 15 grams. Some people need to go therapeutic keto, 20 or under. Some people need keto more, like Nisha, my wife. Under 10 kilograms of carbs keeps your Hashimoto's in remission. And then some people like me, if I just look at a donut across the street, I'm going to gain 10 pounds. I have to be carnivore if I want to stay, 225, 230, and have a normal A1C. I've got to be a carnivore. And I think that there's that spectrum of the proper human diet, and you've got to play around and experiment until you find just that's my life, because I think it changes. My activity level, what I do, what I like to eat, this is where I need to be in the proper human diet.
So how many years do you think you finally said this is where I land?
It was probably 5 years, 6 years in. I'm terrible with time. So I started out with primal, paleo, Lord Bourdain, Marxism. Like, okay. And so that was helping, unlike the 88s, which did not help at all. And so then I was doing low carb with lots of meat, and I kept hearing about this ketogenic diet or other alternatives rather than just the 88 handout. And so I'm like, well, I'll try keto. And after, keto, that took me to the next level. And then I was doing keto, and I kept seeing little posts about this Sean Baker guy that ate nothing but meat, right? And so on my Facebook page, I said, hey guys, let's do a 30-day carnivore challenge. I don't think we'll die. We're already eating a lot of meat anyway. And at the end of that 30 days, so my heartburn was really kind of my canary in the coal mine. I went to keto. I was taking 2 days a day. I was having some in the pocket, and some apple cider vinegar in my cubby at the office. And so I was on some twice a day. I could make a drink of apple cider vinegar, and that controlled it. Whereas before it took 2 eggs a day.
Wait a minute, this is like 3 or 4 years into the story where you lost the weight, you're into the study,
Trying to get used to
Here's why. Like your mother, I was an X-ray tech before I went to med school. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was a radiological technologist, and was going to be an MRI tech or CT tech, but then I thought that. And so I had X-ray in my clinic the entire time I was in the big clinic, and I interpreted my own X-rays because I had already seen 10,000 X-rays as an X-ray tech. And then you went to med school, and then I had obviously a backup radiologist if I couldn't interpret some of the video. But I shot my own chest X-ray, and I had a high alert, a big one, and I never knew that. And so I never have a high alert, but as long as I'm carnivore, then I have 0 heartburn ever. I don't take Tums. I don't even know what the apple cider vinegar is. I'm not taking anything for heartburn since I've been a carnivore, and that's my canary in the coal mine. And at that point, after that month apart, I was like, oh yeah, I'm staying here because it's obviously carnivore and keto. I say that sometimes when people freak out, but I'm like, if you're eating high-fat carnivore, you're you have the majority of the day. There's no way you can.
Right.
There's just no way.
It's interesting. I remember Eric Weston was the first person who, I heard the, what make it better when you go keto, you go low carb, and heartburn is on that front page. It's so many of those ones. And I assumed it was, oh, they lost some weight and they're eating less. And Eric Westman scolded me for the proper one. He said, no, I did the study. The heartburn goes far faster than the weight loss. Yeah.
But I think that you were thinking exactly correctly, because the more obese you are, the more likely you are to have heartburn. That's true. And also the more likely you are to have severe heartburn. That's also true. And so I still think you're partly right. I think a lot of the disagreement between different doctors in our sphere is that very often there's more than one right answer. So when you said that, I don't think you were wrong. I do think Westwood's right. It does pull the obesity a lot, but I think you're also wrong. And yes, obesity absolutely plays a part. I think the research is very clear. Does that make sense?
Yeah, what about?
So many times, people watching me, watching you, watching Silas, watching you, Westwood, watching Baker, watching JP, they're like, oh, Dr. Boss is this, Dr. Berry's is this. And it's like, yeah, but if you're a doctor, you understand. No, I'm right about that. But also Westwood is right. Maybe Westwood is more right. But still, Paul was right about that. And very, very often, somebody will come in our right and
learn how to
and I'm like, yeah, I agree with that. But also,
those studies.
here's why I say it the way I say it. And then they're like, oh, you know, those people out there, they're not strong.
Right.
And it's like, no, she's right about that. I may say it differently. But that doesn't mean I'm going to say, well, Paul's full of crap. No, that's not they all family. And so I'm disappointed so often because most of the time I'm like, well, actually, she's right about it. And recently, Westman's right as well. Both of those things are true. And that's not exciting to people like this.
But I also think that as you mature in the world of being a physician, that you get to this humble place where you're not going to know everything. Even with ChatGPT and AI integration, you're going to have to sit through a state and say, here's my best guess. And clearly, the clinical application of medicine is not pattern recognition. Well, better. It's doing better. And of course, are suffering like what it is. Like, you got a little heartburn, you know, Friday night and rolling some wine. That's the day that is dysfunctional in your life. And to give them the hope to say, no, you don't really eat. You really eat and shift in how your body's moving. And how that's what's going on. I think clinicians who've been around the block enough times have that pattern recognition in your brain that you're like, yeah, that's what you get with this. And they also understand the power of keeping hope in that patient of telling the truth, then you don't make the customer stay, enough truth to go to the next step, and that's
I want to agree with all that. And so often, doctors understand so much more of the physician detail of medical topics. I'll give you an example. Like when we say, I'm going to have to put you on warfarin, or class, you're going to have to speak. Okay? Good doctors know that those medicines in no way that's not how they work at all. But if I was going to sit there, it would take me an hour and a half to try to explain to the patient what Plavix actually does. You understand? And so it's a kind of shortcut. But still, truly enough, it effectively thin your blood, even though it doesn't thin your blood at all. And so, but very often, that's good doctors. They forget all the physiology. They forget all the biochemistry. And I've actually talked to doctors, they're like, no, we did your blood. I'm like, what are you talking about? It doesn't fit your blood. Your blood is no thinner at all. That's not even how it works. But they'll say that's true. And it's like, no, that's not true. But so very, very often we have to explain stuff in the common vernacular. So people go, oh, because people need to kind of look to hang their head on it.
Well, and I think that is where this primary care physician that comes from, what I like to think of, maybe not humble beginnings, but at least farming beginnings, like rural medicine. You gotta have a language out there that people understand. People are gonna get a hairy eyebrow if you start talk in different language that they don't.
100%. And I remember hearing like foreign language residents and I would be watching them interact with the patient. And I don't even understand how there's any therapeutic thing happening here at all. Because, you know, there's say, you know, I've got to eat an inch of vegetables or something, and it's like, how does this guy that English is his second or third language, he doesn't know what he's talking about? You know, because with especially Southern are notorious for using every euphemism and beating around the bush, never actually get the bush. So I didn't mean that analogy to everything you understand what I'm saying. It's a bad thing to think. Yeah, and I agree with you. I think people reform, people from just a bunch of we're able to pick up on things that's subtle. Sometimes it's very subtle, because you've been raised as a Southern lady or a Southern lady, like many people, even if you're your doctor, and try to tease out how second or third language. How do they pick up on any of that? And also, how do they? I don't think it's very therapeutic.
Well, and I think so. There's clearly something where you very good. This isn't like exactly where you got scientifically figured it out. Where that whole sort of thing where the language you speak, the attraction that you have, the lack of pretense that arrive in a place.
Are you the Dragonite? Oh yeah, you are.
But in a way that people.
That was intense.
So I was trying to think of a few things where we might differ, and I thought, well, first of all, let me go to this part where I showed up in space, and I wrote that book trying to explain why didn't I tell my mother. I'm into medicine, but the subtext from my private clinic was peak brain.
All right. Oh, okay. I know I fought you before, but I didn't know it was with
take care of broken brain. But really have that as the place where I first heard about the ketogenic diet.
Meet again.
Ferris and Don D'Agostino were on a podcast. They were doing all this in hyperbaric chamber, doing that, doing all these things. But he was doing and I was like embarrassed to get out loud, but I'm like,
exactly. Don't be embarrassed. I was like, keto kidding. Why? Because I understand enough of the Greek and Latin to understand what that meant. But I'm like, ketones in the urine is a little bit bad. You're severely dehydrated or you're pregnant. There's ketones in the urine. That's not good. I don't know about you.
Do you think that adding lots of salt causes high blood pressure? I add salt to my coffee. I add salt to lots of things. My blood pressure is in the normal range. Do an experiment. Add salt for 2 days. Watch what your blood pressure does.
Dr. Annette Boswell is a world-renowned expert in fixing the world's most chronic diseases.
She will help you fix your blood pressure and your heart and get off medications for good. The reason people care about this high blood pressure thing is it links to cardiovascular disease, to heart disease, early dementia, brain fog. By about 5 years of high blood pressure, there's this switch that happens inside a human body. You can't reverse. Numbers say 125 over 85 would be too high. You're like, what? I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you, the one who has kind of normal blood pressure, but that extra 20 pounds, that extra 15 pounds that you just can't seem to get off. It matters. When I'm approaching a patient who says, tell me the truth, doc, can I add salt to my low salt diet after taking 4 blood pressure medicines for the better part of 10 years? The answer is yes, but not till next week. Don't focus on the salt. Focus on the insulin. When I have a patient who's arguing with me about that, like, how can you tell patients to and you're trying to control their blood pressure? And like, well, the big picture is lowering the insulin. I stopped as many as 5 blood pressures in one patient over a 48-hour period. I tell patients, you don't die of high blood pressure when it's there for a day. You die of high blood pressure when it's there for 6 months. Welcome to the 21st century, folks. Check your own blood pressure.
Can't dash it.
This episode features Dr. Annette Bosworth, and we're talking about the correct way to fix your blood pressure without taking enjoyed the episode, if you still need help or you have a question, you can meet Dr. Boz live on our Go Carnival community. You can ask her any of your questions as well as our other carnival doctors. Just head to gocarnivals.com. Now, if you're learning from and enjoying these free episodes, please hit the subscribe button because we know that food is medicine, and by the simple act of subscribing, you help share the message to millions more people that need to hear the truth. And now for the episode with Dr. Boz. Dr. Boz, welcome. Thank you so much for having me on again. I can't tell you how much praise my fans and then also your audience had after we did our last talk, so it's great to be back. So it's great to have you back. Now, one of the biggest things that causes early death in most people is heart disease. One of the biggest things that causes heart disease is high blood pressure. And in fact, 1.3 million people across the world have high blood pressure and they don't even know it. And the number that your doctor gives you for what is safe for blood pressure is actually not safe. It's too high and it's too high. So today, Dr. Boz is going to share with decades of clinical experience. We're going to talk about the actual safe blood pressure range. It's probably lower than you think. We're also going to talk about the correct way to fix your blood pressure and why you need to add salt. Dr. Boz, my first question. I want to talk about the connection between salt and high blood pressure. Do you think that adding lots of salt causes high blood pressure? Well, there's a two-part answer. Yes, it does cause higher blood pressure for a time when that introduction of salt is new to your body. So if you've had a season where you say, oh, I heard this doctor on a podcast say that salt was okay, my blood pressure is something my doctor's been talking to me about, and they start doing things like what I had salt in my coffee. I have salt on lots of things, and I have really good evidence that my blood pressure is in the normal range. So if they hear on a podcast, they do this thing, they add that salt, and then they check their blood pressure. And indeed, it was higher. So the short answer is yes, salt has rules of physics that it will attract water. And when we look at our blood pressure, it is a circulation of a pump and a hose. And we'll call it a closed system, meaning you're just pumping that fluid around the body. The length of that hose is not going to change over the next 24 hours. And the amount of volume inside that blood that's circulating doesn't usually change that much. Unless you do some things that shift metabolism rather quickly. And if people are metabolically unhealthy. And unfortunately, this work means something very clear in my mind after 25 years of functional medicine and watching people, trying to die and me trying to not help them die. Don't do that. It's going to increase your risk of death. When I watch what happens to a metabolically healthy person who adds salt, a minimal difference in my blood pressure happens. It's actually a good thing to be adding salt. But in someone who is not metabolically healthy, and they hear the one fact that says add salt, their blood pressure will be better, and they're missing about 10 steps ahead of time. So when I'm approaching a patient who says, tell me the truth now, can I add salt to my low salt diet after taking 4 blood pressure medicines for the better part of 10 years? The answer is yes, but not tell them to. So when I have a patient, let's just take this unhealthy patient, let's say is on 4 blood pressure medicines. And when they come and we first got them on a blood pressure medicine, we said, here's a few things you could do that would lower your blood pressure. We know that this is one of the biggest predictors for lifespan. Like blood pressure, it actually doesn't win as of July of 2024, but it is number 2. It is a huge predictor for how well you'll live, is what is that blood pressure. Many times they haven't been checking it. It's a silent symptom that it's crept up out of what we now know is a very healthy range in the 110, so 150, 180, good number on the top number, and that lower number, we like to see it in the 70s. But if it creeps up in the 120s or even in the 130s, most people do not have a symptom. And over time, if they show up at their yearly doctor's appointment and I see, oh, wow, your blood pressure's in the 140s, it's easy to say, I'm sure it's because you're here to see me. But the truth is, it's way too high for you to have the kind of longevity. So people start by saying, I have one of these little things called a prescription, and we can lower it. I'll manipulate how your body works or I'll manipulate your pump, the heart, the two things that I can control of those prescriptions. And you might want to lower the salt in the next couple of days if we're trying to get it down for a short term. That's salt manipulation. Well, it's a dirty trick. In fact, the first place a doctor gets trained on how to manage blood pressure is when you are a practicing physician in residency and all of your patients are laying there in a bed in the hospital. Your job is to get them out of the hospital. And part of that job is the quicker you get them out, the better, like a lot of things go. The better your workload, the better for the patient, lower the cost, more time spent in the hospital actually has a mortality rate, so get them out the door. And a really good trick is to tell the nurses and to tell the dietitian, cut out all the salt. And by golly, in a couple of days, I can lower your blood pressure really good. You will hate the taste of your food. Your brain will not work very well, but I will win, and you'll get off of my responsibility, and I'll move on to the next 30 patients I will take care of. So this little hack will into the training of how to survive as a physician. And then it has been studied in it's just evidence-based that lowering the salt improves that. Well, it did lower blood pressure, but it did not improve their lifespan. It did not decrease that mortality rate that we should all have been concerned with. Saying, so the reason I'm so focused on your blood pressure is it links to an early death, and not just a death that's, maybe the kind people would pray for, saying I lived a healthy life, I hopped in the grave the next day, and my quality of life is really wonderful. We're looking at your lifespan, which is really brought the last 15 to 20 to 30 years, if you've been having this blood pressure stuck in your body. So when I look at why I can say with confidence that if you have blood pressure and you have no metabolic problems, your kidneys do what they're supposed to do, and they will handle that salt without any problems. They will be graceful, and your blood pressure will stay where it's supposed to, just like mine is. But if you're like many of my patients, for years and years have had a few too many of those processed carbs, you put on a few too many inches around your middle, or maybe your cholesterol's a little higher and you don't know that your blood pressure's higher, but you're not in a healthy state. You have that salt. Your kidneys will say, hey, I am keeping up with everything you're throwing at me, and I do not have the reserve to process this much salt in a short term. You will see that blood pressure rise and can stay there until your kidneys get used to it. Just like when I did the trick to get you out of my bed in the hospital, and I took away your salt. I lowered your blood pressure by taking away your salt, but it only really lasted for 4 to 5 days. Many times people just sneak salt into things where they don't know that it's there, but even if you kept that salt low, the impact on your blood pressure is that your body adjusted. It started to process those electrolytes in a different way. It didn't have to do quite as much work, but the blood pressure went back to what it was when you were in the hospital. When I do the opposite, when I add salt to somebody's system, you will see that blood pressure rise, and then your kidneys will be used to processing that amount of salt. Do you add salt to your? Of course, I'm a carnivore. I add salt all the time, every single meal. I don't add salt to my coffee because it's salty, but I used to dish my coffee. But I just want to clarify that. So the salt is basically a trick that's going to elevate your blood pressure because metabolically unhealthy person, for example, eating healthy processed foods, because their body can't handle that huge salt. Salt attaches more water, and more water retention is still happening in the body. But the thing is, it doesn't mean that people should not add salt. They've got to think something else. Yes. Well, so I was going to use this as a teaching point. So you're carnivore. Have you ever had a piece of really nicely done meat, but you got maybe the outside with the excess salt, and maybe even you put a little too much salt on it, and the next and my weight decreases. Yeah, right. Okay. So that's the huge thing. So you can measure it. Any human's going to see this, and you will see, oh my gosh, I did that. And if you have a little exercise, that circulation in your body will get rid of that excess fluid. But if you're my patient, if you're somebody who's been having, saying, oh doc, I've heard that this carnivore or keto thing is healthy, and I'm going to try to do it, and they start with salt before they get rid of carbs. What they're really fighting against is controlled insulin. Me, I've got pretty well controlled. I've had a season that has not been, and if I do a few things wrong 2-3 times in a row, it sneaks right back into my life. And I can always tell by looking at how long does that swelling last. But you take a healthy person, they add salt, might get that little increase in weight, but a little bit of exercise or a couple of days without adding that, and your kidney will handle it just fine. What is missing and that happens in the pathology of patients is insulin, is the excess amount of insulin. And you don't get this in one day. When you ate that carnivore, you had extra salt on it more than you were expecting, and you saw that increase your fluid. The insulin that's in your body is normal. You ate meat and you produced a little insulin, but nothing excessive. Your body has this tidal wave of increased salt, the fluid followed, and then you dealt with it. When you look at insulin-resistant patients, they put that excess salt in, and the reason it gets trapped in their legs, in their body, in their ring fingers, is the insulin signal. You added that, you stimulated, you needed more insulin than you did the day before, and that insulin plus salt now turns into a chronic, destructive process. And I'm saying, yeah, don't focus on the salt. Focus on you heard me say earlier that blood pressure used to be the biggest predictor of, if you're looking for longevity, if you're looking for heart health, blood pressure matters most. And it does. But it just got out-trumped by something that I think speaks to this exact problem. It's a measuring unit called LPIR. It is a calculated metric that's found in a fancy cholesterol test that shows healthcare providers how much insulin was that cholesterol around. So it's a mathematical calculation that looks at how big was your cholesterol particles, how long did they hang around, how many of them did they have, how quickly did you get rid of them. And that is what your blood was doing. We can measure how much insulin resistance you have according to your cholesterol. Again, the reason people care about this high blood pressure thing is it links to cardiovascular disease, to heart disease, to the brain not doing well, whether you call that dementia, brain fog, you can't keep all 5 balls in the air anymore, by lots of terms, or why aren't you functioning as well as you are. But when it comes to the unifying thing that I see in chronic diseases throughout the country, and especially as we go to age 40, insulin needs. And you can play the trick of salt, but I would strongly encourage, don't waste your time. Focus. Get that down. And now, yeah. And we can measure it now. I mean, blood pressure is going to be much easier to measure. Looking at people's blood pressure, watching to see that they are educated. Keep an eye on how well are your kidneys keeping up. And a healthy set does have that blood pressure in the 110s. Not the 120s like we used to say it, not the 130s like they said when I first started medicine, but truly getting it in the 110s, and then the bottom number on that 70s, again, not in the 80s, and not in the even, it used to be something when I first got into medicine, you get taught by the guidelines are taught you by humans. You watch how humans respond when, you got that top number down over here. If that bottom number isn't quite right, it's okay, they're already on 3 prescription medications to get them. Still gaining massive amounts of weight, still having the health problems. About 10 years go by, they change the guidelines and they say, okay, now we need to have that number in the 120s, and we definitely need to get that number in the low 80s. We want it less than 80 if you can. And now we are strictly in the 110s, in the 70s. If we get it there, we can say important things like the chances that you're going to suffer from these cardiovascular issues are much less. But it isn't. Yeah, I would also say it doesn't matter what it is in my office. It matters what my blood pressure is in my office, but it matters what it is in your world. And getting people to take ownership of it, and then do an experiment. Add salt for 2 days. Watch what you're doing. Take it away for 2 days. And you will see that this oscillation is experiment that you can follow. Unfortunately, it will acclimate. The kidneys are going to do what they're supposed to do. They're going to adjust to what you put in your body. I think it's important to understand that it's not the soul that's causing high blood pressure, it's that your body is adjusting to added stress, your metabolic damage. I want to talk about the connection between resistance and high blood pressure and the mix and the solution a little later. But I want to ask about you and your patients, because you see a lot of patients. I'm curious, how many patients, because you mentioned the blood pressure number should be reduced. Talk more about that. Because I'm sure people could say to their patients, 120 over 80, 130 over 90 is fine. It's okay. How many of your patients have elevated blood pressure, and do they know? Well, it is probably a skewed population. I am an internist, so the more times you go around the sun, the more likely it is you're going to be one of them. So as patients age, they graduate from other practices like OB-GYN or obviously pediatrics. They'll send their diabetics to me. And I tend to, the message of an internal medicine is we manage chronic. So I think out of 30 charts, the last 30 charts, there's probably only 6 that don't have high blood pressure. It's just such a common problem. And part of it, Rihanna, isn't just that the blood pressure got elevated in one practice, and we do our best to say, hey, lose some weight. The mass is really an important part of this equation. It's a pump and hose system, and the mileage is important. For every pound you put on of human tissue, it's like another 3 miles your heart had to pump through. So then you get up to 10 pounds. That's the mileage matters. How hard does your heart have to pump to move the fluid along? And unfortunately, when blood pressure lingers and it doesn't get corrected, it doesn't get down into that healthy range. And I even see this when I'm doing all the work. When you come to me, and let's say you're in your 40s, and you first see a little bit of blood pressure, and we say, yeah, you should have that blood pressure be less. And maybe I give you a couple of visits to try and get it down, but then I say the words, you can do this or I can do this. But the fact that we haven't moved the needle in a year, your kidneys don't care. Your kidneys are still taking the brunt of what that pressure does every week. And I want your kidneys to be in a reversible state when we want to get this weight off. So let's get the blood pressure down. It does matter. The area under the curve matters. The number of years we went without treating you before we knew was one thing. But now we know. You get 3 visits to try and reverse that. And I need to help you say the kidneys don't care. They are going to take the trauma. And we use kidneys because they're very easy to measure the damage. So I can look at your urine and say, the urine isn't supposed to have these things in it. And your urine high blood pressure has now started allowing this little molecule into your urine. I can also do the same thing. Your blood is supposed to be cleaned by the kidneys. It shouldn't allow this molecule to keep circulating at such high levels. So I can look on either side of that basement membrane, essentially, and I can see, did the trash get too high in the urine? Or did the trash that's supposed to be in the urine not get as much of it and stay in the circulation? And we can look at both sides of them. We don't want to see some of the things slipping into the urine ever. So when I can measure microscopic amounts of it, I know your kidney has seen the damage. And unfortunately, what that also means is your heart has seen the damage, and so has your brain. So these end organs are very, very calculated for that kidney function. And when we look at by about 5 years of high blood pressure, there's this switch that happens inside a human body. You can't reverse. And now you've got a problem that you're going to have to see until we die. You're going to need a prescription until we die. Once blood pressure has been at this elevated level, and 5 years is what I see clinically, there's a few studies that say it's closer to 10 years. Maybe it's because they don't see me until we've been at it 5 years, and now even though they get the weight up, even though they run and have a physically active body, blood pressure never went back to normal. And that's what I'm trying to prevent. Like, if I put this medication on board, even though your life's not perfect, I can't snap you and get this insulin resistance gone. I'm trying to preserve the don't switch and use that lever, but you can't seem to get that. You don't have a way to undo that. So how high is too high that you can never go back to blood pressure? Well, that's just it. The numbers say, 125 over 85, which is high. Like, what? Yeah. So that's the study that came out where it said, yep, you're now changing. They stopped the study early because the patients who were having the blood pressure in the 120s over 80s were compared to what they called the ultra-controlled blood pressure, which was in the 110s. Like, that's impressive. Like, gosh, I'm going to give up that much medication. Are they going to get lightheaded? That's really intense. But the people in the 120s over 80s died quicker, had more heart attacks. They stopped the study early to say, hey, everybody pay attention. This blood pressure thing is a way bigger deal than you think it is. And what I contend is control it, because there are some key things that are happening at a subcellular, at a systematic level that I wish I could push the undo button, but it went on for too long, and now I can't keep your blood pressure in the 110s over 70s. The switch is turned on. You're going to need this prescription until you die now. And to me, that's where people should be saying, okay, I've robbed Peter to pay Paul too long. There's something in my health I need to take control over. And if blood pressure is the place that you finally can hear it, you can hear, I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you, the one who has kind of normal blood pressure, but that extra 20 pounds, that extra 15 pounds, you just can't seem to get off. It matters. As Dr. Boz mentioned, blood pressure matters, and anything over 120 over 80 is too high. And later in the episode, Dr. Boz will talk about the correct way to fix your blood pressure, that involves a ketogenic diet, or even a carnivore diet. Now, as you do this, you might experience side effects like headaches, that is very normal, especially at the beginning, when you are adding high quality electrolytes that have sodium, potassium, and magnesium. That is going to help with proper body function and brain function. That's why I have Element as a sponsor of today's video. I personally like to use a high quality supplement like Element because it is a science-backed mix of sodium, potassium, and magnesium without anything artificial and no preservatives. The Element has a wide variety of flavors to use, but I like to use the raw unflavored option in my morning coffee. And I have something exciting news. The Element chocolate menu range is that for a limited time for 122. Each box contains 10 chocolate raspberry, 10 chocolate mint, and 10 chocolate chai. It is designed to be enjoyed hot or swirled into your favorite recipes. It is a great and healthy way to warm up your winter. And right now, Element is offering this free sample pack on every order. So you're going to get 8 single servings. Just head to element.com/the podcast. So can we talk about how it matters? I want to also get to those numbers because people are probably thinking, holy moly, what if they look something else? But that sounds like a very conservative number. 120 over 80 is what we've been told forever as being normal blood pressure, but it's not. So we're going to talk about a bit later, men and women, what their numbers should be. But I want to ask you, so what is the consequence of having this even 120 over 80? What's happening in the arteries of people physically? What's happening, and how does that cause damage to the heart and brain? Yeah, well, it does make you. Did you ever watch the cartoon when you were a kid, the Magic School Bus? And there was the cartoon characters who would teach about science and the world of looking at fifth graders. I think this was her class size, but she would help you imagine what it would look like in parts of the body or science to explain. And I think people need to hop on a Magic School Bus and go to your kidney. When arteries are being damaged, there's a mystery to this, right? Like, I can put something in your body and measure your blood pressure. I can even put little cameras in and snake them up into the arteries of your heart, look around and make sure anything is off. But the real microscopic processes that are happening during blood pressure, well, they're difficult to study when I start to intervene. Now you're under pressure, you're under anesthesia, there's all kinds of things that change, and it's really this chronic story that we know is happening inside the bodies that we're adding up to a score that says this is a really important metric. Blood pressure should be controlled. So the kidney turns out to be the easiest place to study it. That artery that's in the kidney is unique to the body. And it gets down to this place where the kidney does a very fun science experiment. It dumps all of those particulates into this pool of your body and waste, and then it starts to throw the good things back into the body that it needs. And when everything goes correctly, the healthy stuff ended up back in your circulation, and the waste stayed in your urine. And it's this really powerful place that, as long as you don't put it under high pressure, it works off. The other thing about the kidney is it doesn't complain. When you're dying of kidney failure, your kidneys don't talk much. They don't have a lot of symptoms. So the pressure inside a kidney, not only is it silent, you must be studying the microscopic things that are missing damage. And when that pressure gets to be above 120, it starts to tear this filter that shouldn't have a tear in it. And one little tear, no problem, your body will zip it up. But now you've got a chronic problem. It's in 120s for a while. We just see that there are a few proteins and few particles that are ending up in the urine that should not end up in there. And that is because the pressure destroyed this microscopic connection between the cells. And that place of the kidney it's like the canary in the cave. It will whisper to your doctors through laboratory data, finding the trash too high in your circulation, and the good stuff that you're not supposed to let into your urine starts to sneak into your urine. And that is the warning that says the metabolic health is changing, and the reversal of that metabolic health is very difficult once we get to a tipping point. I think that would probably be one of the hardest realizations that, as a young physician, you look at guidelines, you try to reach the guidelines for your patients, and when they don't quite reach it, you're a human taking care of another human, and you're like, that one's good enough. That LDL cholesterol is close enough. We've changed those guidelines. Don't worry, that's good enough. But if there's one place that the studies continue to validate that we shouldn't even been more strict, and it's not like we're measuring how many more, like sometimes when I look at the measurements of guessing, and this metric really changed the life of a patient. Blood pressure skyrocketed. They died. They had a couple more heart attacks, more vascular events. But that blood pressure was in the 120.
Nice combo.
And it was pushing it down to the 150. And the 70 means the patient's not dying faster. I mean, I hate to repeat that the third time. It's just that shocking to me. Like, what? Again, the third time I've had to ratchet up the guidelines for patients. And in other areas of medicine, I said, I don't believe it. The blood pressure left me alone. The information that you were looking back to the spring trial. So that was the trial that was stopped early. And that goes to show how scary it is to have elevated blood pressure, and it's as elevated as people say. They think that we're 140 over 90 is elevated, or 180 over whatever is a crisis. But you're saying even 120 over 80 is too high. Let's talk about numbers that people can think, okay, for women and men, what they should get to. But I always say but, you have to ask this before you ask this question. Is it genetic by any means? If somebody has high blood pressure and they think, oh my god, there's no way that I can fix it because my mom and my dad did. You know what? I don't let my patients get away with that. I mean, there are a lot of things that genetics have taught us. I'm in the era of physicians where we mapped out the genetic code. And what we learned from all that was, okay, we can map it out, but there's really a much more important part of that genetic code that came to our awareness over about 10 years after we mapped it. And that was, well, what part of the genetic code are you from? What's that epigenetic in your body? And really control that. We know that there are parts of that epigenetic code that carry on for generations. Not that you can't give someone the blame to your ancestors, but it's also a very powerful ownership that I don't want patients to deny. I want them seeing. I will tell you as the privilege of watching patients age and seeing some of them do it so gracefully And then some of them saying, it's a lost cause, the only thing I've got is you, doc, adding these prescription medications, and thank God for them, they have kept patients alive and the quality of life, but it's not the answer that you should be alive. The lever that's much better to pull is, yeah, you may have the genetics from your parents, you may even have epigenetics from the last 3 or 4 generations of ancestors, but how you impact that is a host of controllable factors that really do matter, and they make a big difference. Like, say, you tell a patient, don't worry, this is genetic, there's nothing you can do about it. The helplessness is, well, it's not a good life. They start to say, poor me, pity me, there's nothing I can do. And there's plenty of things in medicine that is the case. Like, you've got ALS, you've got multiple sclerosis, and although I would still contend there's things you can do about that. Blood pressure, you do not get that important. Yes, there's a genetic component, but there's absolutely your ability to say, get insulin down. What's causing it? The pathology that's going to affect the quality of your life as we're having it.
When people see those two numbers, there's one on top, one at the bottom. Let's explain what the number means, and then what are those numbers for men and for women that they need to attain.
Right, so let's talk about this. So I don't think my audience, we're going to call this up. So as your heart goes up, is when the heart squeezes and pushes blood forward. Down is when the heart relaxes and the next volume of fluid fills the chambers of the heart. Now specifically, let's just imagine that left side of the heart, which is the biggest side of that pump, and when we squeeze that big ventricle and push the blood forward to the lung, that is the pressure it takes for the miles of blood to move forward about an inch into that. So as you squeeze that forward, the fluid penetrates the body, and now there's a split second that will fill. The pressure it takes to move the blood forward is what we call that systolic blood pressure, and that's the one that you said should be at 120 for all those years. The bottom number should be, the bottom number is when that heart relaxes and the blood is so that backfills if you've got a broken valve, but most of that fluid is coming from the next section of the blood supply. Your love and dove are the top number and lower number, and I think when you listen to your own heart, even if you can feel the pulse, if you feel that under your fingers, that's your love. It should be 120. You should have 120 millimeters of mercury of pressure to move that blood pressure forward, and you want that under that 120 for the best longevity.
Is that for men and for women? So under 120, so it's 115, 117, over what, 118 or 17?
Right. Well, so when's the last time you took your blood pressure?
Oh, my father-in-law has high blood pressure. He adds the salt and his blood pressure increases. So when I measured my blood pressure, it was 116 over 17.
Right. So, perfect. That's a great answer. When you look at that blood pressure for women, we definitely, in the trial, that approach to, when you back away from the guidelines, separating that into men and women is something that the nuances of the scientific world has parsed apart. But I don't find it helpful when I look at what's the difference between men and women. The kidney function is what is destroyed when those numbers constantly are above 120. So we have guidelines out there saying men we can allow this, women we can allow that. But when you get down to kidney function did not get affected, lump both of them stay less than 120 and less than 80. I know it sounds profound. It is still shocking to do this because I spent 20 years saying, and even once the trial came out, I thought, I'm going to have to read this for myself. There's got to be a mistake. And truly, that difference was, it took me a good 6 months to get the language to come out of my mouth. And I'm like, wow, I've been telling patients for so long to shift that. And no, really, controlling blood pressure, that's what we want to see. So, the question that I think what patients struggle with is, so you checked it a couple of times and it's 122 over, by 82. So it's just on the edge of that. Is that enough to start medication?
Get ready for the next battle.
I wouldn't. Again, I don't want to remove that the lever of saying take control of this. If I look at patients who are starting to see a blood pressure rise, so you've got a great baseline. You've got your father-in-law who's helping you check your blood pressure. At least you can write in the book somewhere that my blood pressure was in the 110s over 70s. You were fine. And then a few years go by, and it's just like insulin resistance to not tell you that it's taking more. You're producing more insulin than you needed to. God for Yeah, I wanted to share, when I got sick, what are some of the things that I did to help my body get better? And these are not intuitive. You may think they're easy for people to reach into, but a couple of them I have been using over the past 4 weeks, actually about 6 weeks of what I do. When my voice was lost, I like to not be so strict on the ketogenic diet when I travel. My husband and I were at a place where the sun was bleached, and it was definitely not the favorite time to be sick. But I did fast, and the fasting definitely gave me a little better energy, helped me not crash. But the other thing that I missed while I was out there is some of the things like fasting. So one of them is that I have found a new thing to do in my fasting. I want to show what this is. So I've talked a lot about in the past how salt is really important, which gets you back to what the title of the thumbnail for tonight is all about. I grew up on a farm where we had a calf cow operation so we calved out cows each year. We raised them for produce, so I am very well associated with the life of all things nutrition for animals. The husbandry of how to have a healthy steak is real. And I will tell you, when I was in one of the conferences in Omaha, I got introduced to not just Redmond salt. I'd seen Redmond salt before, but I got introduced to something that I think is so awesome for fasting that I want to show you about it. So I have the link in the show notes below, because I really think that when you see
the opposite of what I'm listening to.
You're going to enjoy it. Okay, so we've all had, you've heard me talk about how important it is that when you fast, you need salt. Salt is good for your craving. Redmond has these little canister shakers that you put in your pocket, and I've had a couple of these. They're actually pretty good. My kids have taken a few of them too. Not only is it the kind of salt that has much better minerals in it, and when I would look at some of the stuff where my dad would order salt blocks for our cattle, you could never order sodium chloride. That would be the worst thing that you give an animal to have a healthy body. But these little shakers are a great option. I put that in the show notes below too. I'll show you the cool thing. So I call these salt pellets. Okay, so this is a little big. I've taken a couple of them and I've hammered them down, and you put them in your pocket, because if you've done this, if you've been fasting and you get to that part where you feel craving and you feel yourself getting more irritable, it's amazing how much better you feel when you have salt. So in the past, I put salt crystals in my pocket, and I'm a girl, and I usually wear a skirt, and skirts don't, they don't have pockets on them. So sometimes I would have it in a shirt pocket, or a wash, and it's over there, or I put the crystals in there, but I don't know, there was a whole pocket, and they weren't there when I needed them. So these salt crystals they're rocks. They're from Utah. There's a mine out in Beaver, Utah, where they get these, and it is like, it totally reminds me of cattle on a salt rock. But it is fascinating how quickly you will put out the craving for salt. So when I got sick, I had a couple of these in my pocket, not big ones, little ones, and I had it in my pocket every time I started to feel a little hungry. Pull that salt rock out, and it's not like the salt goes out.
I gotta take a break. It's been like 6 hours,
In the past, when I failed on a fast, it's because I couldn't. Salt wasn't in my pocket. I couldn't find it.
My eyes are dry.
You will buy one bag of these crystals, and you will have them forever. You're not going to need to restock them. And they are so useful. I cannot believe how helpful this has been. So I've been doing it for about 6 weeks. I have like 5 or 6 rocks that I have in different outfits, and they are very helpful. So the other thing that I was reading about was, so you can take the salt rocks, and I have them in a glass jar here, these kind of bigger ones, and I put them in some water, and I set this right next to my my sink in the kitchen, and I take a tablespoon, so it's salty water, but it's got that really good minerally taste. They have a packet of teaching the difference between the taste of just sodium chloride salt and a mineral-based salt, and for one of the activities in our group a few Fridays ago, I passed them out, had everybody taste the red mint salt, and it's really got this almost like twice the number of taste buds that are engaged, I guess. I don't know, it really does taste really good. And then, we waited about 15 minutes, and then we took super white salt. But I put a tablespoon of this in my coffee. So again, that morning salt is not a lot of energy to keep up with once you're replaced, but it does require that improvement of finding the right stuff to put in your system. You'll see in many of my lectures I talk about how important it is that one of the things the ketogenic diet does is fill up all of these cells or enterocytes of the gut. They happen long before
Dolly Parton passed away.
The symptoms are things like irritable bowel, inflammatory bowel disease, even celiac disease is known to have enterocytes that don't seal it. And one of the first things that happens is you lose minerals, and it's at a microscopic level. Even if I go in and take a biopsy out of their gut and I send it to the lab to say, do they have any cell enterocytes that are leaking? It's too microscopic to really measure outside of a research study.
Sorry about that. There's something on my nose.
There is something that you go and look at the YouTube channel or the YouTube that says leaky gut. I go through this really cool test, not done in America, but it's a really cool test that helps us learn how valuable, how much a gut leaks. So
acid's coming
now
up.
my brain instantly, when I hear of somebody who has an autoimmune problem, whether it's thyroiditis, whether it's Crohn's disease, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, any one of those vascular diseases, the first thing I think of is, oh, they've been leaking out minerals, and their gut has been betraying, allowing things to leave without permission. And so to replace that, the first section of the ketogenic diet, that's hard. I'm still a big fan of giving time to a blood spa, magnesium blood spa, where there's a lot of magnesium in there. I just call that. But I'm telling you, I'm a big fan of having a bunch of rocks that I put in my outfit, because as soon as I feel that sense of not feeling good, or gosh, I was sick, I can tell you the number of times I would have never had that many salt crystals. I would have had a process of people. Anyway, so I think that's cool. My kids got what I got, and I gave them all salt rocks to suck on.
Please subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to click the notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos. Stay tuned.
Hey guys, I wanted to do a quick little video on salt deficiencies on keto. Okay, so normally when a person is burning sugar, they're running on sugar fuel that's called glycolysis, and they shift over to ketones, burning fat, what's going to happen? They're going to dump a lot of electrolytes. The need for salt will go up. When you're running on sugar, you're retaining a lot of fluid, and you really shouldn't be consuming a lot of salt. But when you're on keto, you should be consuming at least 1 to 1.5 teaspoons of salt each day. Some of the symptoms which indicate that you're deficient would be low blood pressure, dizziness when you stand up, leg cramps, especially in the lower part of the leg, the calf area, or even in the foot. Okay? Also, general weakness, fatigue. Those are all classic signs of low sodium and also chloride as well. So the next question is, what type of sea salt do I need? Now, the two most popular ones
I'm
are
going to see.
Himalayan pink salt, which is from
Well,
the mountain of Kazuya.
Actually, let me get some water
Anything that has
first.
a little bit more iron, very pure, very ancient, it's awesome. And then you have Celtic salt, okay? That's great because it has clay in it. It's from the certain ocean, and it's very healthy too. When we compare these two, it's a little lower in sodium, a little higher in magnesium, higher in phosphorus, and a little higher in calcium. However, they're both so similar, I wouldn't recommend one more than the other. It's really just up to you. But consuming a good, high-quality sea salt will handle this deficiency, but just make sure you need it in a little bit higher quantities. But when you're consuming other foods like cheese or olives, or you're doing bacon that's salted, realize you're going to get some salt in that as well. But if you don't, you're going to have to add this. Put it on your eggs or your meat or even your salad to make sure you have this salt to prevent some of these symptoms. All right, thanks for watching. Hey, I appreciate your attention, and if you're enjoying the video, go ahead and subscribe. I will definitely keep you updated on future events, live events, and webinars that we're going to do very soon.
Just a minute. Just a minute.
Someone asks you for something before you check your calendar, your energy, or your actual
Sample packs. When I'm doing a low carb diet, I felt by myself. It's awesome. It's like I feel like I'm just not doing things I normally do. It starts to frustrate me because I feel like my performance suffers as a result. Then I remind myself of all the research that I've done that clearly outlines the importance of proper electrolytes for doing exercise. We discussed that. There's one particular study
Probably listen to music.
that just illuminated it so clearly. It flat out showed that when we are losing electrolytes, sodium on a ketogenic diet, which can happen very easily, our kidneys expel the excess sodium on a ketogenic diet due to low insulin levels, we have a loss of performance. And most of the loss of performance and
Oakley dokley. should we listen to today? Big L? No. Afro Man? No. 6ix9ine. Iran offers $10 million bounty on Barron Trump. Donald Trump's son or grandson.
Hello guys, welcome back. So in today's video, I'll be explaining to you the biggest reason why players stuck these learning matchups. So we're gonna cover how to learn matchup and which part you should be focusing on learning matchup. I have seen like there is this open practice mode and just randomly pressing button. But like we're gonna just go deep into how to learn matchups. So let's get started. The very first thing is you cannot memorize everything. So don't force yourself to memorize everything. There is no reason. So like, let's say Yoshimitsu has 10 moves, like not 10, like hundreds of moves. Like Liu Long, he had like a lot of moves, right? In Tekken 7. So first thing that we are human, we cannot remember everything, and don't force yourself to remember each and every situation and each and every move and how much minus is that move and how much plus is that move. You don't need to, guys. Trust me. That's the first thing. It doesn't matter if you're a pro, it doesn't matter if you're like a beginner or intermediate, whatever you are, like wherever you are. And I don't remember everything, you know. In my streams, I have been asking, oh, how much minus is that? Oh, how much plus is that? You know. It's just like, just focus. Let's say I'm playing Nina, so I'm giving you an example of Nina. So if you want to learn Nina matchup, you just need to focus on like 5 or 6 moves. I think it's gonna help you, and then if you just remember those 5, 10 moves, 5, 6 moves, and maybe just add 2 moves, if you're like very good. And if you're advanced, maybe just try to memorize like 10 key moves of Nina, you know. So let's say Nina has like 5 key moves. Where are her key moves? Like it's down power 1. Her down power 1 is her strength. Like without down power 1, she can't do anything, you know. Whole game plan, Nina game plan is around her down power 1. Down power 1 in Tekken is very important, and Nina down power 1 is just -1. So you need to like make sure this player, if I'm playing versus a Nina player, doesn't matter if it's like a noob or top player, is a clan or whatever, he's gonna be playing around mind down power 1 or down power 1 to mind game a lot. The other move Nina has is back to 2. Back to 2, and explaining this video, I'm feeling something, you know, because that's the main character. So back to 2 is 12 frame high homing move, which is amazing. They should have nerfed it. They already nerfed back to 2, the third move of back to 2, but it's still good. So this player is gonna press a lot of back to 2, and back to 2 has a third string which is back to 2, that's high. So that's 2 things. And the other thing I would say, Nina players, because a lot is down power 1. Having a save down power 2, down power 2 in the game is very important. You know, characters having save down power 2 is very important versus characters like Dragunov, you know, versus rush down characters like Korang, Dragunov, versus Brian, King, you know, you just gentle with your down power 1, you know, if they hit you, if your down power 2 hit them, it's good. It's a free combo. If it doesn't hit you, hit them, it's fine. Just try to make sure you don't beat down power 2, down power 2, but that's another thing. What is the other thing? The fourth move is down back 3. Nina, that's so Nina has the down back 3, so you should be like, oh, this guy.
It's getting cold.
Well, you know, and the last move is side step 1. Side step 1 mind game is very important, you know. Okay, so side step 1 is like plus 10 on top.
Yes.
She can do whatever she wanna do. Like she can do.
Yeah.
만만한 시합이었어. 짓밟아주겠어.
Round one. Fight. Round two. Fight.
Damn.
Round
This
three.
guy turned into God of Destruction.
벌써 끝이야? 더 덤벼봐. Get ready for the next battle.
Hello, everybody. Most days, I do not eat breakfast.
It's getting cold.
Get ready for the next battle.
Potassium.
I hate rich people.
Damn, it was cold with the AC on.
Round one. Fight.
AC was. Nice trade.
Round two. Fight. Round three. Fight.
I'm shivering. The AC's not even on right now. Damn.
Fight. You win. I hate rich people. Samo. Round one. Fight.
Got the combo.
Round 3. Fight. Round 4. Fight.
Yeah.
You lose. Do you want to learn martial arts? I hate rich people. Round 1. Fight. Round 2. Fight. Round 3. Fight. Round 4. Fight. You lose. Do you want to learn martial arts?
Get ready for the next battle.
My blood sugar's getting low. Not my ex.
Get ready for the next battle.
Haru.
Round one. Fight. Round two. Fight. Round three. Fight. Round one. Fight.
Nice.
Round two. Fight.
Nice.
Round three. Fight.
Nice.
Round four. Fight.
Wrong move. Oh. Damn, man. Nice. Starting to get the keto headache. Did you know that?
Get ready for the next battle.
I need salt or something. Starting to get tired. Sometimes at 2:30. I'm gonna go to sleep. It's been a total of 6 hours, I think. Yeah, I'm gonna go to sleep or gonna end the stream. Bye guys. Thanks for stopping by.